Hello and welcome to Friends for Good, where we talk, share, and celebrate all things good. I'm Carson Fowler. That's Zach Lehner, and welcome to the podcast, friends.
Hi and welcome. So this show is Friends for Good. Our mission for this show and the whole project that we're doing really is we don't feel that good news, whatever it is, however big or small, is shared or spread nearly as much as it should be. I'm personally someone that I need good news to and just know that good things are happening in the world so that I can keep going. And I don't know. I hope you all feel the same because we're really passionate about this and we want to share as much good news and all things good in the world as we can.
And the way that we're going to start these shows is we're going to have some stories that stood out to us. Each week, we'll just kind of circle through news, look through story ideas, and then kind of come to five that kind of stick out to us. And then they'll essentially be our headlines. And we'll go to Zach first with our first story that stood out to us. And Zach, why don't you tell us a little bit why this one stood out to you and why it fits into our theme this week, which is why is it's important to be curious.
Absolutely. Thanks, Carson. So the first story that I'm going to be talking about is a story from May of last year that I found fascinating and inspiring. So a team of psychologists at UCLA actually found a link between curiosity and reducing the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. So the findings showed that adults who remained curious throughout their life and always pursued their interests and things that they wanted to know, um, they found that it could actually offset or reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. And conversely, those who were not curious actually were more prone to a higher risk of Alzheimer's just by not
Interesting.
their brain as much. So a quote from the article is that the psychology literature shows that oftentimes what's known as trait curiosity or a person's general level of curiosity tends to decline with age. Um, and trait curiosity versus um, sort of curiosity that there's trait curiosity and there's state curiosity. And trait curiosity is kind of based on what your interests are and what you want to pursue and kind of deep into your core, whereas state curiosity is what you're curious on at any given point in time.
Hmm.
Uh, and
Interesting.
so trait curiosity has been shown to decline as adults get more into midlife because they feel less of a need to learn skills that are maybe more suitable towards their career or um, maybe their interest. Because once you're in midlife, you kind of, for the most part, maybe have your career lined out. You don't think you need to learn any new skills. When in
Yep.
reality,
Yep.
you always do, and you always need to be pursuing that. Um,
Always
so
keep stacking. Always keep getting better.
So with that, just a few takeaways from just the general sentiment of the article is that there are obvious health benefits to remaining curious, with memory, learning new skills, general maintenance of someone's health. But I'd like to take a look at the other applications of curiosity. Um, Curiosity doesn't just help, learn new skills and train your brain, but it also allows you to connect with other people. By being curious and keeping an open mind, it only furthers your relationships, your brain's health, and your ability to feel and practice empathy, which I'm going to talk about more later.
Yep.
Um, but I guess my general theme for the article is that stay curious and the rest will fall into place. Um, Even things that are as heavy as a topic like Alzheimer's or dementia, being curious, as crazy as it sounds, can even prevent those.
Hey, and it ties perfectly into the theme because you think about why it's important to be curious. One of those things being maybe you get a reduced risk of getting Alzheimer's, or you get to live a little longer, or you see less cognitive decline, which I think those are all benefits that we can agree on. And I think that actually ties in to our next top story that was one that I brought up. And this is one that Zach and I kind of went back and forth about. It's called Program 60 at Ohio State University. And it's actually an opportunity for seniors of years 60 and over to take undergraduate courses at the Ohio State University for free. And I think this is kind of cool for a lot of reasons, but I also think it ties into our theme of, and I think it's actually a good piggyback off of like your story about Alzheimer's, because why wouldn't we want to push our seniors to get back into a classroom, challenge their brains, learn a new activity, reduce cognitive decline as much as possible, but also the opportunity to just be around young people. I mean, we all want to feel young. Obviously, you and I are in our early 20s, but I'm sure in 50, 60 years, my experiences and number of opportunities to be around young people and learn a thing or two would be numbered. I mean, I can only imagine what the world will look like and what technology will look like in 50 years. Imagine our grandparents who grew up in the 50s and 60s, and now they're seeing iPhones and they got their grandkids to explain it to them. So I think that's kind of cool. I think it's also just one of those things. It's good to feel young again. It's good to share some of these life experiences with young people. And I just thought it fit into our theme of curiosity. And I think that program in particular promotes being curious. I want to go back to the difference between what was it, trait curiosity and state curiosity. So trait curiosity is the one where it's topics that you want to be curious about, right?
Yeah, it's really kind of more about related to I'm butchering a little bit, so don't quote me, but it's really more
We're
related
not
to
claiming to be the experts here.
we're not the experts, but trait curiosity, from my understanding, is more of like, when you're younger, you want to learn new skills that tie into your career, and just based on what you're interested in doing, you want to learn those skills. Whereas state curiosity is sort of like what you're curious about in any given state. One's more like prolonged, maybe future geared in some aspects, and then the other's like what you feel in the present time.
So here's this. So then in this instance, this program would, in from what I'm hearing, would promote trait curiosity. Like if you hear a topic that you're interested in, you can take this course for free at Ohio State University as a senior. And I think that's pretty cool.
100%. And just to add, how great is it that not only is there a program for, adults looking to learn,
Yes. Yes.
not only is there a program for it, but enough people want to do it that it exists and that it's thriving. I think that's such a great thing, because
Absolutely.
we never stop learning and we never should stop learning. It's what we're here to do. So I love that story. Good find.
Yep. And we'll get to our next one too. This is another one that I brought up. This was kind of close to my heart because I'm a snowboarder. I liked watching the Winter Olympics. Obviously, it's very timely, but the Paralympics are right around the corner. And this actually ties into a large part of our show. But Mike Schultz is a three-time, I want to say he's a three-time Olympic medalist in the Paralympics, two-time silver, one-time gold. He lost his leg in a snowmobiling accident in 2008, had surgery, had to get his leg amputated, and then never thought he would get back into sports. He was a big time athlete growing up. Went through a number of different prosthetic legs and things to help him try and do sports to whatever capability he could. None of it was working. He almost gave up, and then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna build my own. I'm gonna
Mm,
build my own prosthetic limb, like
hell
lower
yeah.
leg. His company, which I've got here, is called BioDapt. He started it in 2010. And get this, Zach, 25 Paralympic skiers and snowboarders are using his technology at the Paralympics this year. And
It's
on
beautiful.
top of that, 90% of all Paralympic snow sport athletes in competition use his technology and gear.
It's just so incredible. I mean, I think it's
Pretty
a
cool
real
stuff.
testament. It's a real testament to human spirit. I mean, just when you think you're out of it, you're not. And
Yep.
he was creative enough and curious enough to realize that his dreams were still fully possible, and that's really magnificent.
And I think the best part about it is like I think it's at one point he realized like this is bigger than me. Like
Yeah.
there are a lot of people like me that were in a low place, could have given up, and then it became bigger than himself. He's like, all right, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this so right, and it's gonna help a lot of people, and clearly it has. And like I said, he's gonna retire this year. He's won three medals. He could go for a fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever. But I thought that was really cool, and that's actually going to tie into one of our segments later that we'll introduce in the later part of the show.
Sure. So just to go off of that, um, not super related, but this story just really stuck out to me, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Um, just as a little context, our friend Paul, something he said to me has resonated with me, and I've never stopped thinking about it. And that is that true change, it doesn't happen from the top down. You can look at macro policies and things like that, and obviously they make a difference, but real true change happens at the community level and the grassroots level. And that's related to this next story I wanted to talk about. So Columbia students, engage in a course. 17 students the course is called Building Climate Justice, Co-Creative Coastal Resilience Planning. So the syllabus was actually more of a call to action than anything else.
Interesting.
So essentially 17 students sign up for this class. They learn about, climate change policy and how to combat it, but they also get real world experience. So 17 of them, they split, the class split along with the faculty. Half of them joined and started working with the South Bronx Unite and the Staten Island Urban Center.
Okay.
In both of those respective, you know, programs, the students are actually actively working in the communities fighting climate change and specifically advocating for climate policy and legislation. And so something else that they really advocated for was data. And data historically has been something, and getting the right data, especially regarding climate resolves, has been really it used to cost a fortune, but now they're able to get all of the data, share it with everyone, no matter what the socioeconomic status, and actually use that data to make a difference. And I just thought that this course, the fact that not only it exists, but they are making real impact. This article just came out March 2nd. So this is happening in real time. And it's a really beautiful thing. And, just some of my takeaways from it, curiosity impacts change. Furthering one's knowledge of the world and using that
Yep.
knowledge to change it is the
Yep.
reason we live on as a species. And we will never be complacent if we continue to be curious. We will always move forward. So I love that story. Thank you, Columbia, for offering that. Thank you to all the students in Factory who are doing it. You're really making a difference. I just moved to New York, and I love to see that good things are happening. So
I love that in our first episode, two of our quote unquote stories that stood out to us were via education. Like I
mhm.
think that's so cool. And I love that you ended it with thanking Columbia because they don't have to offer that program.
No.
Like that's something that they're invested in. And I think that's really cool. And I think data-driven journalism is really important because sometimes you read these articles and you're kind of like, where did this come from? What are these sources? But when you have like real data that you collected yourself and you can publish and put it out there in a way that's easy to comprehend, that's really important. And then you're able to actually create legislation off that.
100%.
Things that are easy to digest. I actually took a data-driven journalism class at Syracuse, and I really like that class. So really good story, Zach. And we'll get to our next one here. We did a practice show before this, and we highlighted this story as well, and we thought it was so good we'd get into this one as well. A group of students at a Tennessee elementary school, Zach, learned sign language to sign their janitor's 60th birthday. He's deaf. James Anthony, the custodian at Hickerson High School. He's been there for 30 years, Zach. 30 years. And these group of 11 year olds decided to learn sign language and sign his birthday.
That's
If that
that's
doesn't give you faith in humanity, I don't know what does.
one of the most beautiful things I've heard in the last, however long. You know, I know for a fact he didn't ask for that, and
No.
wasn't expecting it.
Nope.
And that's what just makes it the best gift, is because people can read that it was important to him. Even these kids,
Yes.
like they might not fully understand, but they do. And I know that's going to impact them as well in terms of being empathetic, kind people in the future. So I love that story. That's a great find.
Yeah. So that was one that really stood out to me, and just again, just kind of reaffirms faith that like we are there are good things happening in the world. And that's why we're doing this show because we want to highlight stuff like that. We'll get to our next segment here. It's called Notable Quotables, sort of some of the quotes that we've seen throughout the week. Um, and Zach, I know you've got a few, so why don't you kick us off with your first one?
Sure. Honestly, I have two here, but there's really only one I want to mention because I just thought it was incredible. But
Let's hear it.
it's related to curiosity, our theme, and it says that little minds are interested in the extraordinary, great minds are interested in the commonplace. Um, and so I'd like to just delve off my interpretation of that, and that is that instead of thinking about all the things that really are kind of outside the realm of possibility, that's sort of what a little mind might do, is maybe thinking about the things you don't have, wishing you had certain things, or thinking about things that simply just aren't feasible. But when you think about the commonplace and you really dive into problems and interests and things that are happening just in your daily life, it reaffirms this curiosity within people, and it allows you to actually know the world for what it is and not what you wish it would be. And I think that's just a beautiful sentiment to how important curiosity is.
That's a really cool one, Zach. When you first put that on our shared doc, I honestly, I really wanted to get your interpretation of it because I was almost a little confused. Like that's a very, very powerful quote. Who is Elbert Hubbard? Do you know who that is?
I actually don't, and I should, but I was just kind of scouring quotes and I saw that, and it was actually no, I do. He's an author from the 18th century.
Well, there
Uh,
you go. There you go.
yeah,
What about it stood out to you at first?
I think it was more that I didn't understand it, which is also kind of perfect for the theme. Is I
Ties into
read
our
it,
own theme. You were curious to learn what it meant.
read it, and I had to look up sort of what various interpretations of it were, and then it made me realize, like, yeah, like why am I wishing and searching for things outside of my life when I could just be tackling and being diving into what is real in my life and trying to make the best of that. I found it to be very pertinent to myself. So yeah.
That's really important. Really, really good quote. My quote's probably not as philosophical as Zach's, or at least my first one. But so I heard this for the first time watching Ted Lasso, which is, really good show that highlights a former football coach that then becomes a professional soccer coach. He coaches a fake team, but there's a specific scene where he mentions what it's that he was belittled all of his life. And if you haven't seen Ted Lasso, we'll play the clip for you. You definitely should watch it at some point. This scene's
Fantastic show. Fantastic.
fantastic show. And the quote is, "Be curious, not judgmental," which I really really like that quote because I think it's actually a lot easier to be judgmental than it is to be curious. Like it
Mhm.
takes some effort to ask questions and to want to learn. Whereas it's really easy to just snap your fingers and judge what people are doing. Like I think that happens a lot. Especially in like the way that our media operates and the way that news events are covered. Like I think it's really easy to just throw out what we're thinking rather than corroborate with other people and ask good questions that really help us understand why things are happening. Um, and obviously, the scene in Ted Lasso is he's playing darts and he gets challenged by an antagonist in the story, and he's throwing darts with his right hand. And he goes, "You play some darts?" And he's like, "Yeah, a little bit." And he's throwing with his right hand, and then he's like, "All right, well, let's play for it." And then he's like, "Oh, I forgot I was left-handed." And then he throws it, and then he throws. And I just love that scene because there's a lot of things that are behind the scenes in that, but it's important. And then and then Ted ends up going on to share the story of like, yeah, I play darts every day. I play darts every Thursday night with my dad after work. Like just like and in and of itself, kind of a cool story. Like I know it's fictional, but just kind of makes you realize like you also like never know what people are going through and like why things are the way they are. So I really like that quote. It's
You know,
originally from Walt Whitman, who's a famous poet, but that was my
and
first quote.
I love that quote. I adore Ted Lasso and I love the scene. But my biggest thing with that quote and what really hits me the hardest is when you really think about all of the problems, so many of the issues that we uncover in our lives in the world and in our society, so many of them can be really easily solved if people just ask questions.
Yeah,
Just ask the right questions, because when
yeah,
you're so quick to judgment, you really actually have you when you're quick to judgment, you almost eliminate the possibility of actually
yes,
understanding what's going on.
yes.
And when
Such a
you
good point, Zach.
limit that, it you're stuck. But
You almost box yourself in a way.
when you're curious, you're limitless in what you're able to discover about this thing that you maybe want to be judgmental about.
Yep.
And I really think that curiosity gives the power to really change the world. So that
Yeah.
that quote.
I love that what you just said there. sort of the kind of anecdote about change, because that actually leads into my next quote. And I got my phone here because I want to make sure I get this right. It's a long quote. So this is from one of my favorite books, Zach, Origin by Dan Brown, which is a terrific book if you haven't read it. The quote is, "May our compassion keep pace with our powers, and may love, not fear, be the engine of change."
Mm,
Let that
that's
sink
tough.
in for a second.
That's tough. No, that's tough.
Like, I think that kind of fits into curiosity too, because I think when you're judgmental, you're almost like fearful of something that you don't understand, where curiosity almost comes from a place of love, where you or compassion or at least empathy, that you're trying to learn a little bit something more. And then I love what you said at the end there on like how things just won't change if we're not curious. And that's why I really liked that quote. And actually the story, the reason that the author wrote that in there is it's actually about AI and like
Mm,
how before like we really get into AI, we should ask questions before just letting it out there. But that's a conversation for another day, different podcast. But I really like that. I really like that quote. Thought that's one that stuck with me for a long time.
I love that. I think I think it's just a testament to almost originality. Like there are certain things that our lives are going to change with the introduction of AI. And I only talk about it because you brought it up, but we are original, we're unique, and because of that, going back to the previous quote, it might be easy to be quick to judgment because
Yep.
no one's alike. People are different and it's easy to judge, but when we're fueled by compassion, when love is the engine and not fear, you know, that that leads to change. That leads to curious good change. So
To
it's
the change that we want. Yeah.
100%.
All right, I think that's good for quotes. Let's get to our wins of the week. So this is sort of just like professional, personal, anything that's kind of going on in your life, something that you may have seen that you really liked. Zach, I'll just give my win first. Just getting this podcast off the ground. Like, you always say like actions speak louder than words. Like saying something isn't as great as doing something. And like I think that in and of itself is pretty cool. Like we decided to do this. Hopefully this is something that we get to do for a long time. And the way that I see it, we're being curious, you know? Like
100%.
we went and did the research to go ahead and look out for these stories, to share this stuff, to put this together, to spend some quality time together, via video. So that's my win. I think that's a win for me. That's my win of the week.
I love that one of the week and I want to speak on it more as well. You know, we've been sitting on this idea for a long time. And for me personally, some of it was due to like, why we didn't start sooner was just I wasn't super confident myself at the time and whatever, but just being here on the call with you, we're actually doing it. We've prepped, we've done work. It feels so good. And I really believe in what we're doing. And I really hope it makes some sort of difference, because I already know even if it doesn't help anyone out there, it's helping me at least feel a little bit less dread about the world. So I'm really grateful for you, for the show. And that's, certainly part of my win of the week.
Well said,
Um,
friend. Well said.
Thanks. To go into the win of the week that I wrote down, my older brother Jake, he's an incredible artist. He sings, he plays guitar, plays piano. Um, he's been so devoted to his music and he's incredibly talented. I can't wait to see where it takes him. He just formed, a band and he has a show in Boston, March 12th. I will add the venue because I don't know the venue off the top of my head, but to whatever clips we post this, I'll add the venue. Go listen to his music on Apple or Spotify, Jake Samuel. Jake, I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to see the things you're going to do. And his music's fantastic. If you like listening to good music, you should listen to Jake Samuel. So
Listen to Jake Samuel, man. That's and I can piggyback there. I've listened to Jake play and sing, and he's immensely talented, and I think he's gonna go far with that. Like, and it's he's being curious in his own right. Like, a guy had a really good job, one of the smartest people I know, hardest working people I know, and he's like, you know what? Like, I really want to do this. Like, I want to go out on my own and try this. And that takes guts and that takes being curious. So shout out Jake, and like he's a great person. That's a really good one of the week, Zach.
100%.
So
So
our last segment here is sort of highlighting a person that probably isn't highlighted enough. I would say, is that fair? Someone that's maybe not
sure.
in the news, but has done something that's reputable and something that we want to discuss. And um, I brought him up earlier. My silent hero is Mike Schultz. That I like. I can't get over that. Like I think. Oh, it just goes back to like my quote, like let love and not fear be the engine of change. Like he feared for where he was at, feared for where he was going, and instead was like, you know what, like I love sports, I love snowboarding. He's like, I got to do this, I got to keep going, and look how many people he's helping now. Like
It's really,
love
he's,
was the engine of change, and he's helping so many people like that are fulfilling their dreams, that want to keep being a part of sports, that want to keep doing what they're doing, being active. Like I think that's so powerful.
and he's really not just, it's not just that he's helping people that need a prosthetic leg. I mean, that on its own is just an incredible, you know,
Feet.
W. It's
W.
it,
Yes.
it's the W, but it's also the fact that he really is helping people achieve their dreams of
Yep.
being Olympians,
Yeah.
with his ingenuity. It's incredible. So shout out Mike Schultz. You are definitely a hero that should not be silent. Um, so now moving on to mine. This person has been recognized a fair bit, but I wanted to recognize them. I was reading up on some of their work today. I might be butchering this pronunciation. It's either Reen Amy or Renee Amy, but they are planting millions of seeds in Southern California to restore the fire damage that happened from the wildfires last year. And um, it really, it's just a perfect example of seeing a problem, taking action, and wanting to do good, which is what we're all about here. So shout out to Renee Amy. I apologize for getting your name wrong, but you are an incredible hero that you should not remain silent. So thank you for your work.
It's so funny when I first saw his picture when I was kind of going through our doc together. I was like, he almost looks like Forrest Gump when he's running across the um United States, and I was like, but like not to be
Think about
funny,
all the
but
lives force change. Think about
hey,
all the lives force change.
hey,
All he did was go on a run, and everyone was happy. It's pretty amazing.
and it's the same thing with this guy. And like it sounds so small, but it's like doing something like that, doing it out of your own pocket just because you want the world to be a little greener is so important. And I think that's really cool. And it also just goes to show like, obviously he's doing it on such a large scale, but no act of kindness is too small. Like you and I could go plant a seed outside our apartments today if we want. It wouldn't be
Right.
at the scale that he's doing it, but we could do it. That just shows that anybody can do something like that. Maybe not of that magnitude, but it all starts somewhere.
And that's what I was talking about earlier with it starting locally and on the communal level,
Yeah.
because I don't want to speak for anyone other than myself, but sometimes I have felt powerless because I'm not in control of big change that I want to see happen. But there's so much we can do that sometimes our imagination limits us from being
Yeah.
able to do. And I think that Mike Schultz and Renee Amy are just really, truly perfect examples of people that saw a problem, wanted to change, and said, you know what, I'm going to do that myself because I'm capable.
Yeah. I forget who said this, and this could even be another quote for the week. Don't underestimate, or sorry, it's one might overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade.
Mm,
Because you brought up such a good point. Like it's really easy to be so nearsighted and be like, man, like I really wish I could do X, Y, or Z, but I just don't have the resources right now. I don't have the time. I don't have the means in front of me to do this. But then you think a little bit wider and you're like, well, maybe in 10 years I do. Maybe in the next 5 years I do. Maybe if I start, planning week by week or day by day or month by month, like I can get to a point where that is feasible. You know? Like I think
100.
it's really easy, and that's another part of being curious. Like go like think outside the box a little bit and be like, okay, I can't do this right now, but how can I build it up to a point where I could do this at some point? So
Absolutely.
it's like having a startup. Got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere. Um, so before we leave, we just have a little discussion plan based on our theme, sort of our own individual thoughts, not related to, I mean, we'll, relate it to the news or whatever we spoke on, but it's really just kind of for us to speak on and would love for you to,
Little whiteboard material.
yeah. I like that. Um, so the discussion is why is it important to be curious? Um, and Carson, I just wanted to ask you first, what drives your curiosity?
What drives my curiosity? Hmm. I mean, I think there's a few things, but I think the one thing is if I can better myself in any way and learn something new by being curious, I think that'd probably be like my core foundation for like why I think it's important. Like why do I go to school? Why do I learn a new trade? Why do I go to work? I think there's some intrinsic curiosity to wanting to get a little bit better. And if it's not for yourself, it's for other people, it's to be around other people. That's probably my thing too. And I think also it's curiosity to me is an opportunity to get out of your comfort zone in a way that's almost comfortable.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not I'm not like standing on a cliff, jumping off a cliff. Like I'm not taking risks here, but like just get an opportunity to like learn. I think that's the biggest one. I love that our two stories were kind of in tandem with that. So
I I loved your take on that. I think for me, we're all naturally curious, but curiosity throughout one's life, kind of relating it to the first story that I brought up, it comes in ebbs and flows. Like your curiosities might get lower as you get older and your eagerness to learn new things. But as long as curiosity remains a necessary force for us to be able to understand each other, that's what drives my curiosity because I can't fathom living in a world where I can't at the very least try and understand where, my neighbor's coming from when it comes to anything or just someone I meet on the street. It's about learning each other so that way we can build a more harmonious world. And that's what drives my curiosity, really just being able to understand people. I think it is one of my strengths. But it's not something you can ever stop practicing because you
yeah.
will lose that. Me and you kind of have this discussion separately, and it kind of relates into what I had planned later for the discussion. But I guess the idea of if you're an empathetic person, do you have to practice empathy? And I believe 100% that you do because I feel empathy. I do believe I'm an empathetic person, but the moment you stop practicing it, the moment you stop asking the right questions to the right people and trying to understand where they're coming from, you actually lose that empathy, at least in my opinion. I don't know if there's a psychological basis to that, but to me, it seems like
No, I think
there,
absolutely. No,
yeah,
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think it's like how some people say like athletes are gifted. It's like nobody gave them their gifts. It's like these people like work really hard or are educators. They work really hard to become an expert in their field and then teach the next generation of people. And there is some intrinsic curiosity and like wanting to get better. No, I think you bring up such a good point. And also just the value in like celebrating our differences. Like
mhm,
we wouldn't even get to a point where we could celebrate what makes us different if we didn't ask the right questions and be curious. Um,
100%.
like would would we know so much about MLK or some of our great historical leaders if they didn't ask questions? If our leaders in positions of power at the time didn't ask the right questions?
And you think of the people that weren't curious and they were judgmental when looking at all of these historical figures that
Yeah.
many people are looked down favorably in history, but for so many of them, a lot of them were killed, a lot of them were despised, disruptors, people that wanted to make change. And I think it's because people weren't asking the right questions of what is going on in this world, why does this person exist, what are they trying to solve. If they ask those questions as opposed to immediately getting upset, I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So with that, we're running out of time on this recording a little bit, but I just kind of want to leave with this thought, and that is, you know, curiosity to me is the key to kindness. It's the key to empathy. It is the key to advancing yourself as a person. And my one challenge for anyone watching or listening is that go out, find something you're interested in, look into it, and just learn. That's it. because something good will come of that, even if it's not necessarily an incredibly actionable thing. And I'll let you wrap this up, but my last thing is just that I appreciate you all for watching and listening. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube, and we'll be coming out with episodes weekly. Um, me and Carson, really all we want to do is do some good, and we hope we can with the show. We're going to do more things and add to it as we progress. There's going to be a lot of trial and error with this. But we're just so happy to get started. We're so happy to be able to speak on these things. And Carson, I'm frankly just so happy to see you and see your face and hear your voice every week. So
Hey,
thanks.
that's why we called friends for good, right?
Yeah.
We're doing good things, but I also believe that Zach and I have been through a lot where we are going to be friends for good. That's period.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, we think we're doing the right thing with the show, and I loved our first theme, and I hope we can keep building on it, and we can hopefully bring people on that we believe are either experts in their field or have stories they want to share. So,
Yeah, just real quick, if anyone listening or watching, if you have something you really want to speak on, we can either speak on it.
yep.
There will be opportunities for guests on this show, and we welcome it. So please feel free to leave a comment, a DM, and soon we'll have the email up and going. So would love to answer any questions and just have you all be a part of it. So thank you.
And definitely add us on Instagram. That's our social that we're using right now at friends for good _ media. Um, we want to hear your thoughts. Zach and I find these stories, but if there are stories that we did not hit on from the week prior that you found and you think should be in the show and you think this deserve to be highlighted, we want it to be in there. So I think that's a pretty good stopping point for our first episode. Again, friends for good. This is our show where we talk, share, and celebrate all the good things that are happening in the world, any random acts of kindness, scientific and global advancements, and just the stories that make us human. So, with that being said, we'll see you next time.